Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. As Namatri, whenever you're ready, you can start.
Hare Krishna devotees, Tanvat Pranam, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naran Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Today we'll be reading from 3rd Canto, Chapter 19, entitled and here Aja, Brahma, and others arrived on the spot to see the fearfully tusked demon lying on the ground, biting his lip. The glow of his face was yet unfaded, and Brahma admiringly said, "Oh, who could meet such blessed death?" Text 28. Brahma continued. He was struck by a forefoot of the Lord, whom yogis seeking freedom from their unreal material bodies meditate upon in seclusion in mystic trance. While gazing on his countenance, this crushed jewel of Diti's sons has cast off his mortal coil. Text 29. These two personal assistants of the Supreme Lord, having been cursed, have been destined to take birth in demonic families. After few such births, they will return to their positions. Text 30. The demigods address the Lord. All obeisances unto you. You are the enjoyer of all sacrifices, and you have assumed the form of a boar in pure goodness for the purpose of maintaining the world. Fortunately for us, this demon, who was a torment to the worlds, has been slain by you, and we too, O Lord, are now at ease in devotion to your lotus feet. Text 31. Sri Maitreya continued. After thus killing the most formidable demon Hiranyaksha, the Supreme Lord Hari, the origin of the boar's species, returned to his own abode, where there is always an uninterrupted festival. The Lord was praised by all the demigods headed by Brahma. Text 32. Maitreya continued. My dear Vidura, I have explained to you the personality of Godheads coming down as the first boar incarnation and killing in a great fight a demon of unprecedented prowess as if he were just a plaything. This has been narrated by me as I heard it from my predecessor, spiritual master. Text 33. Sri Sutta Goswami continued, My dear Brahmana, uh, Satta, Vidura, the great devotee of Lord, achieved transcendental bliss by hearing the narration of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the authoritative source of the saga, of the sage Kausharava Maitreya, and he was very pleased. Text 34. What to speak of hearing the pastimes of the Lord, whose chest is marked with Srivatsa? People may take transcendental pleasure even in hearing of the works and deeds of the devotees whose fame is immortal. Text 35. The personality of Godhead delivered the king of the elephants who was attacked by an alligator and who meditated upon the lotus feet of the Lord. At that time, the female elephants who accompanied him were crying, and the Lord saved them from the impending danger. Text 36. What grateful soul is there who would not render his loving service to such a great master as a personality of Godhead? The Lord can be easily pleased by spotless devotees who resort exclusively to him for protection, though the unrighteous man finds it difficult to propitiate him. Text 37. O Brahmanas, anyone who hears, chants, or takes pleasures in the wonderful narration of the killing of the Hiranyaksha demon by the Lord, who appeared as a first boar in order to deliver the world, is at once relieved of the results of the sinful activities, even the killing of a Brahmana. Text 38. This most sacred narrative offers extraordinary merit, wealth, fame, longevity, and all the objects of one's desire. On the field of battle, it promotes the strength of one's vital organs and organs of action. One who listens to it at the last moment of his life is transferred to the supreme abode of the Lord, O dear Shaunaka. Thus ends the chapter, Canto 3, chapter 19. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Swapnavati. So, it's a very wonderful section. Some 3-4 nice principles are laid out in this last set of verses for this wonderful chapter. So, as you know, we'll go to the brief context. The chapter is titled itself "The Killing of the Demon Hiranyaksha." As you heard in the last 2 days sessions, basically there was a fierce battle between Hiranyaksha and Lord Varahadev in the form of Supreme Lord Vishnu in the form of Varaha or boar incarnation. So we heard how Hiranyaksha was trying to kill him with different weapons, and Lord took care of all of them with his Sudarshan Chakra. And then we heard how uh, the same thing. Lord did not kill him right away. He engaged in battle to enjoy pastime of fighting with his own devotee in the form of enemy, like that we heard. And then finally, it was so easy for him. He just slapped him near the ear, and that's how he killed him. But that showed that it is nothing for Lord to kill him, but he was enjoying the pastime of fighting with him, like that we heard. In the last couple of verses was the killing of Hiranyaksha described. Now in the next section, what we'll hear about is Brahma's speaking, and then other demigods praying to the Supreme Lord, and then finally going back to the glorification, Falasruti. What do we get by hearing this pastime like that? That's where the chapter will end. So we'll go through the sections one by one. So we're starting at 27th verse today. Let me show you my screen also so you can see that particular verse while I'm explaining it. So we're in the 27th verse. So remember the last verse, 26th verse was when Lord struck him, he fell down dead like a gigantic tree uprooted by the wind. That was yesterday's verse that Chaitanya Prabhu explained. Now going to 27th verse, basically Brahma and all the demigods arrived at the spot, it seems. And what did they see? They see this demon Hiranyaksha killed and lying on the ground. But they saw that the glow on his face was not unfaded yet. It's still remaining. Normally what happens when somebody passes away from this body and somebody dies, the body becomes dull. You cannot see any life in the body like that. But in this case, because Supreme Lord personally touched in the form of bore him, his body, that's why his brightness was still remaining, glow of the face was still remaining, it seems. And then Brahma is admiring, he's saying, oh, who could meet such blessed death? Why is he saying such blessed death? One is, he's personally saw Supreme Lord face to face before he died. Normally, whenever we die, at least remembering Krishna also will take us to better, great destination, right? Spiritual world. Similarly, this demon, before he died, he got an opportunity to see the Supreme Lord face to face, number one. Number two, Supreme Lord personally touched him to kill him, like that. And then number three, Jiva Goswami describes in Krama Sandarbha that actually Brahma is wondering, wow, is he actually devotee only came as a demon? So very soon he will go back to spiritual world. Like that, he is expressing his wonder, it seems. Brahma, Lord Brahma, in this case. Um, yeah, that's why there Brahma and demigods are thinking this demon was so fortunate like that to get the association of Supreme Lord in this way, seeing face to face and touching him like that. Now going to the text 28. Text 28, Brahma continued to speak. He was saying, he was struck by 4 foot of the Lord. Vishwanath Chakravarti, I think, explains this thing. He was struck by hand, right? That's what we heard. With the hand, he touched the finger, ear, but not the foot. How come it's foot? Is there a contradiction like that? Vishwanath Chakravarti explains. He explains that basically boar has 4 legs, right? So the front legs are called hand, it seems. In that sense, in the previous verses, Lord is hitting him with the hand indicates one of the front legs of the boar. That's why there is no contradiction Vishwanath Chakravarti is talking about. Then he says, yogis meditate on the Supreme Lord's form and they want to get out of this material body. And uh, they meditate upon this form in seclusion in mystic trance. So Sri Prabhupada writes in the purport how the purpose of yoga is not to get some material benefit. My senses should be strong, I should live longer, I should not have diseases. That's not the main purpose of the yoga. The main purpose of yoga is to develop freedom from material body. That means developing perfection, going out of this world, going to spiritual world like that. That's one point Prabhupada makes. Another point Prabhupada makes is, see, yogi's ultimate purpose is to meditate on the Supreme Lord's form. When you meditate on Supreme Lord's form, that makes it easy for them to achieve the perfection. That is the real purpose of yoga, like that he says. And the third point he makes is, this kind of yoga is to be performed in seclusion. So that means seclusion means where no one else is around, like in the olden days, forest like that. The Ashtanga Yoga, he's talking about Ashtanga Yoga, this one. So that means whatever we do seeing in the day-to-day today yoga, that is primarily asanas, one of the 8 limbs of the whole Ashtanga Yoga system, is not the full yoga system that is meant to give perfection, because that is being done when everybody is around like that. This is in relation to Ashtanga Yoga. Of course, we as practitioners of Bhakti Yogi, we don't have a need to. Prabhupada many times when the seclusion word comes for a Bhakti Yogi devotee, practicing devotee like us, then he says in the association of devotees. That means seclusion from non-devotees. That means as much as we can. That means more association with devotees, less association with non-devotees. That is what is encouraged for practicing devotees like us. So then he's saying, while gazing on his countenance, while looking at Lord Supreme Lord, he gave out the body. So that's why he's wondering, he's thinking, wow, how great he is, like that. Then, yeah. And then the last point Prabhupada makes in the purport is, the perfection of yoga practice can be attained by demon also. This is an important point. That means, irrespective of what kind of intelligence we have, what kind of knowledge we have, what kind of common sense we have, what kind of money we have, what kind of education we have, doesn't matter. Anyone is qualified, and by Supreme Lord Association, anybody, Supreme Lord and Pure Devotee Association, any of us can be delivered like that. In this case, the demon was delivered by the kick of boar, Lord in the form of a boar demon, boar like that. So that's why demon also got elevated like that. That's what Prabhupada writing in the 28th verse purport. Going to the next verse, is Brahma is still speaking. Saying these two personalities, who is he referring to? That is Jaya and Vijaya. So they were cursed, and they were cursed to take birth in demonic families. After a few births, they will go back to their positions, like that Brahma is saying. Now, after Brahma, who is one of the leaders of the demigods, spoke, now the other demigods are addressing the Lord with prayer. What are they saying? They're saying, we offer all our obeisances to you. You are the enjoyer of all sacrifices. We hear from Bhagavatam also, right? 5th chapter, 29th verse, last verse of 5th chapter. Bhoktaram Yagnatapasam. Of course, Sarvalokam Aishram. Bhoktaram Yagnatapasam means he's the enjoyer, supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices. Like that. What does that mean to us? That means anything and everything we do is meant to please the Supreme Lord, to satisfy the Supreme Lord. Like that, we need to conduct our activities in our life. And then they say, you assume the form of a boar in pure goodness. So, what Prabhupada elaborates on the purport, how pure goodness is called Vishuddha Sattva. So, we know already in material world there are 3 modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. What is this pure goodness then? Basically, in the material world, even though somebody may be in lot of goodness in this life, but it is still tinged with some passion and some ignorance also. Whereas in the spiritual world, there is no scope for any passion or ignorance. That is what is called pure goodness. That is one point Prabhupada writes in the purport. Another point he explains is Supreme Lord is not being influenced by one of the modes of nature of the material world, goodness, passion, ignorance, like that. Is beyond them, is transcendental to those modes like that. That's the other aspect is describing. And third aspect is describing is how, even though he came in a boar form, he's not degraded himself to like an animal. He's still transcendental. He's a Supreme Lord like that. That's another point he is maintaining. And why is he doing that? To maintain the world. What is the maintaining in this context was that to kill the demons and protect the demigods, because the demigods were terrified with this demon like that. And he was also disturbing the earth also, right? That's why he came to maintain the world so that earth can continue. So that's why Bhumanu can do his own job. Actually, that's where it's going next chapter again. Remember, originally this whole pastime started because Swami Manu was created, but he didn't have he didn't see the earth and the orbit. Earth went to Garbhodaga Ocean. So that's why the whole narration came, whole Varaha pastime for last 6, 7 chapters basically, including Jaya Vijaya and Vaikunta. So now they are going back to the next chapter. We'll go back to that chapter actually, starting the first Manvantara, Swayambhu Manvantara. So then they're describing this demon is very fortunate, and we are also very fortunate because you kill the demon who was troubling everyone, and now why are we fortunate? Because we can do devotional service to you, to your lotus feet easily now. So that's one more lesson for us as devotees, as practicing devotees. We can learn to ask Supreme Lord for spiritual desires. Pray to Supreme Lord for spiritual desires. That means to grow in our devotion service to Him, and to be situated in pure devotion service, and to develop Krishna Prema, any way we can say it. And then also any obstacles that are coming in our way to do that properly, we can also pray with that intention, not like to trick the Supreme Lord. No, I'm going to ask him for money by tricking him, saying that I want money so I can do nice devotion service. Not because Supreme Lord is in our heart, he knows everything. But for example, money is really blocking us from doing devotion service, for example. So that is possible, right? Let us say I don't have any money to live. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I'm always worried where I will get my food. Then I cannot do devotion service nicely. Then it's absolutely great to pray to Supreme Lord for that also. But our ultimate goal is to be situated in our original constitutional position, which is to be servant of Supreme Lord and serving Him nicely in pure devotion service. So that's the other thing here. Let me see if there's anything else in our purport. Yeah, yeah, that's what Prabhupada is saying the same thing. Yes, exactly. Real purpose of the life is to satisfy the Supreme Lord, and we get to situated in our duty is to serve the Supreme Lord because we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. That we need to remember the realization. Actually, the next section of verses will cover that also. How do we get the realization that I'm really spiritual? I'm not this body. And how do you get the realization? I'm actually servant of Supreme Lord. I'm part and parcel of Supreme Lord. How do you get the realization? We'll talk about that also. But primarily through hearing from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. That's the primary method through which we get that realization. So we can practically live with that realization like that. Going to the next verse, 31st verse. Now, after the Brahma prayed, after the demigods prayed to Lord Varaha, now this whole narration was being told by Maitreya Muni to Vidura, right? So the conversation came back to the next globe. Maitreya Muni is saying, what is saying? After killing Hiranyaksha, most formidable demon. That means it's so powerful demon. The Supreme Lord could easily kill him. And Supreme Lord is the origin of boar species. Prabhupada focuses on this in the purport. Basically, how we hear Adi Purusha, um, that terminology, that means he is the original one. From him, all the other avatars came, like that he talks about. he is a Supreme Lord. He came in this avatara for this particular circumstance, but for the particular purpose, and he returned to his own abode, where there is always an uninterrupted festival, Utsavam, like that is discussed. So basically, yeah, let me complete this and we'll discuss the purpose. The Lord was praised by all the demigods headed by Brahma. Basically, they glorified. They all glorified. He didn't give all the details, basically, matrimony. He just said they all praised him, like that. So now the purport, Prabhupada talks about few aspects. One is uh, Supreme Lord has his own abode. Even though he's coming in different incarnations here, he actually has his own abode that is in spiritual world, separate from this place. Number one, he talks about. Number two, uh, so even though he's residing in that Goloka Vrindavan, transcendental abode in the spiritual world, he actually, his energies are spread everywhere in the material world. How? He gives the analogy of how from the sun rays are spread everywhere. So even though sun is so far away, but his energy is coming as sunshine, spreading everywhere like that. Similarly, even though Supreme Lord is far away in the transcendental abode in his original form like that, but then through his energies is all pervasive everywhere, like that is being discussed here. So another point Prabhupada talks about is how, yeah, the Utsava are this complete festival we saw, right? Where is that thing? We're in 31st verse, right? Yeah. Uninterpreted festival. Basically, in the spiritual world, is a place of complete happiness. That's what we hear normally. Festival means we celebrating our own happiness to share with others, like that, right? So like that, spiritual world is full of complete happiness because of the presence of Supreme Lord and exchanges between the devotees and the Supreme Lord, like that Prabhupada talks about. And then Prabhupada talks about how when Lord descended from the Supreme Lord like Avatara, and that means that is coming from the higher world, not from anywhere here, is not belonging to anywhere here. That's what avatar word signifies, Prabhupada is commenting on. So that is about 31st verse. Going to 32nd verse. Maitreya Muni is still saying to Vidura, I explained to you the Supreme Lord's coming down as the first born incarnation. That means Supreme Lord's avatara as Varaha and killing this demon Hiranyaksha as if he were just a plaything. That means for Supreme Lord is not a big deal to kill this Hiranyaksha. Only to have fun, he fighted for some time. As if Hiranyaksha was winning sometimes, Varahadev was winning for sometimes like that. But for him, it's a plaything. At the last, he just slapped and he got killed like that. That is one. So for Supreme Lord, it's not a big deal. That is one aspect of his describing. Next, he says, I told you all this, narrated all this as I heard it from my predecessor speech master. That means he didn't add any masala in it. He didn't add anything extra from his own like that. He is only sharing what he has heard from his guru in the disciple succession. Maitri Muni's spiritual master is Parashar Muni. So he is describing what he heard from his disciple succession in his guru. That is very important. That comes up. That theme is elaborated in coming up verses also. So basically, we should share from what we hear, what we read the scriptures, instead of thinking it may be like this, it may be like that, like that. Yeah, that's what is being described here, 32nd verse. Now going to 33rd verse. Now remember this Maitreya Muni Vidura conversation is coming is being described by Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. And that conversation, who heard? Suta Goswami heard. So Suta Goswami is saying that Srimad Bhagavatam to say times. So it came to that outer loop of conversation where Suta Goswami is telling now. Even if this conversations loops is becoming complex for you, don't worry. The essence of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is to understand the principles so that we can apply in our life. Yeah, so it's not a big deal, even if you cannot follow the thread, who is speaking to whom, like that sometimes. So Sutta Goswami is speaking, is saying, my dear Brahmana Vidura. So this is another name of Vidura, it seems, Shata. And then the other word of Maitreya Muni is given as Kausharava, like that. So um, he's saying Vidura, Vidura, the great devotee of the Lord, achieved transcendental bliss by hearing the narrations of. That means by hearing this pastime, he was so happy, beyond happiness, transcendental bliss he experienced when he heard the pastime from Maitreya Muni, and he was very, very pleased, it seems. So, in the purport, Prabhupada emphasizes on the hearing. The last set of verses are emphasizing on the theme of how hearing is so wonderful. Hearing pastimes of Supreme Lord is so wonderful, like that. I'll read a couple of things from the purport. One is, uh, if we want to derive same like Vidura, the transcendental pleasure that he achieved by hearing, we should hear from authoritative source. That's the first point Prabhupada makes. Who is the authoritative source? That means somebody who is coming in the disciplic succession, authorized disciplic succession. Somebody who has accepted Guru. When we hear from such a person, then we also can experience the transcendental bliss, and we can also experience the transformation in our heart, which is what we're really seeking. That's the other point Prabhupada makes, actually with so much emphasis in this purport. And then that's the positive aspect. If we hear from positive, from a guru who has come in the line of disciple succession, from a devotee who has come in the line of disciple succession, we can experience the transformation of the heart and transcendental bliss. That's one aspect. Now, if we hear from the other, why we should not hear from other persons who are not coming in disciple succession, who are not accepted guru? Prabhupada is emphasizing so much in the purport of that aspect also. So we'll discuss some of them. He's saying Sanatana Goswami especially warned that we should not hear anything about personality of the Lord from the lips of a non-devotee. Why? The example is given. Even though milk is wonderful, but if a snake touches it, that poison goes into the milk. So it's not good. Similarly, even though Krishna's pastimes are wonderful, we should not hear from a non-devotee. That's the point from Sanatan Goswami itself. So then other point is, not only when we hear from non-devotee, it doesn't have much effect of transformation heart, but actually it's dangerous also. It damages our bhakti, like that. That's a no, that's a wrong statement. Damages bhakti. Bhakti can never be hampered by anything. That means we cannot proceed further in bhakti. That's the right thing to understand. So now he's also quoting Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu emphasized that we should not hear pastimes of Krishna from a Mayavadi. So if we hear from Mayavadi any pastimes of the Lord, then we lose the capacity to understand Supreme Lord's nature, Supreme Lord's qualities. Like that, Prabhupada is indicating here. So now the last point Prabhupada is making is that when Sutta Goswami is speaking, actually all the audience was Brahmanas, that means the higher class of society. So, but there is not perfection. Just becoming Brahman is not perfection. Perfection is only achieved when we hear the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Lord from a bona fide source. That's the emphasis Prabhupada is giving in the purport. Now going to 34th verse. So, what to speak of hearing the pastimes of the Lord? Uh, People may take transcendental pleasure even in hearing the words and deeds of the devotees, whose fame is immortal. So sometimes people may think, oh, I should hear Krishna Katha. That means only if the pastime talks about Krishna directly, I should hear, not anything else. But it is telling that even if you hear great devotees pastimes like Parishit Maharaj, Dhruv Maharaj, Ambrish Maharaj, Pandavas, because it's still Krishna Katha. Why? Because they are related to Krishna so much. That is why that's also Krishna Katha, and that also can give transcendental pleasure to us, like that is describing in this verse. Who is saying this? Sutta Goswami. Now going to the next verse, Supreme Lord delivered. So now the previous verse talked about how human beings by hearing the pastimes in bona fide, from a bona fide source, how can they can derive the transcendental benefit like that, right? I'm saying, what to speak of human beings? Even elephants got benefit like that, he's saying. Remember Gajendra pastime that will come up in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Gajendra was leg was caught in the mouth of crocodile. Then Lord in the form of Hari comes and delivers the elephant not only from the mouth of the crocodile, but also delivers him to spiritual world also. So how did it happen? Previous was talked about glories of hearing and glory for human beings. Now this was even elephant, not only human being can be delivered, number one. Number two, just by remembering, not even hearing also, just by meditating on Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord is association is so powerful that he can deliver us like that. That is the other point being made here. So by understanding Supreme Lord as a wonderful protector, and by hearing about his pastimes, we can be also be delivered a similar way. That's the point being made. And the coming to the next verse, so these are connected, both are connected. So now, when we realize the Supreme Lord protects, see, he protected elephant also, he protected demigods also in this case like this. So when we hear that Supreme Lord as protector, realize Supreme Lord as protector, understand Supreme Lord as protector, and then develop gratitude for all the gifts Supreme Lord is giving freely for us. The air we are breathing, the water we are getting, and then the whatever sunshine we're getting, everything is given by Supreme Lord only. All the resources we have is all given by Supreme Lord only. So when we understand that Supreme Lord is giving me so many things, we naturally develop some gratitude towards Him. And with that gratitude comes the mood of, I want to serve something, I want to do something for Krishna, I want to be engaged in devotion service to Krishna, like that. So that is what is being emphasized in this particular verse and purport also. That with the understanding that Supreme Lord is the protector, Supreme Lord is giving us all the gifts we have in this world right now in our life. With that gratitude, we need to offer in a service to Krishna. If we are not doing that, we are like rogues and thieves. Like in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna talks about that, right? Whatever we are getting, we should, if you don't offer it as sacrifice, then it's like stealing only. So that's the other point being made here. Now the last two verses are the Falasruti. Falasruti means the glorification of what do we get when we hear this pastime, when we narrate this pastime, when we remember this pastime, like that. So anyone who hears, anyone who chants, anyone who takes pleasure in this narration pastime of Hiranyaksha being killed by Varahadev is at once relieved of all the sinful reactions, even the killing of Brahman. That means highest sinful reaction also is getting is removed basically. So the point here, I think Jiva Goswami talks about is that Sutta Goswami is encouraging even those people who have material desires, so they'll be encouraged to hear this pastime like that. So, but of course, for devotees, they desire loving affection towards Supreme Lord. They desire to engage in more and more devotions to service to Supreme Lord by hearing this pastimes like that. So now in the purport, Prabhupada says, one should be very eager to hear such pastimes from bona fide souls, the pure devotee. Then we can become qualified like that. And then he says, we should not hear, again Prabhupada is going back to Mayavadis. We should not hear from Mayavadis, those who do not have any faith in the Supreme Lord. We hear from bona fide dissatisfaction only. Otherwise, the effects will be poisonous, Prabhupada takes about. The last verse for this chapter and last verse for today. Sutta Goswami again speaking. This most, what are the other benefits this hearing this pastime, narrating this pastime, remembering this pastime does? It gives extraordinary merit, wealth, fame, longevity, and all the things we desire, like that. And then on the battlefield, it gives strength of vital organs so they can fight nicely like that. Some Kshatriya. And if somebody keeps listening to it at the last moment of his life, is transferred back to the spiritual abode. This is most attractive for the devotees, not the material benedictions that are being spoken of here. So it's also a beautiful purport. Prabhupada writes, the very process of hearing attentively about the pastimes of the Lord. So that, yeah, window, even it gives material benefits also. That means in this world it will give a lot of nice benefits. And also at the end of the life, one is assured to transfer to the spiritual world also. So in both ways is beneficial. So just make some time. I think Prabhupada writes that statement here somewhere. Make some time. Yeah. So the beginning of devotion service is to spare some time and listen to Srimad Bhagavatam from the right source. So two important points. 3 points. We need to make some time so that we can hear regularly, number one. And make some time so we can hear Srimad Bhagavatam, scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam. And hear from the right source only, not from anybody and everybody, like that. Those are the points Prabhupada is making here. And then other point Prabhupada concludes the purport. Remember, Lord Chaitanya Prabhu recommended 5 most potent forms of devotion service. That is also highlighted in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami. What are those? Those are, you see nicely, Prabhupada serving the devotees of the Lord, first important thing. And then chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, worshipping the deity of the Lord, and living in a place of pilgrimage. Just performing these 5 activities can deliver one from the miseries of material life and go back to spiritual world like that. This is an important reminder for us how we need to focus on this important process of devotion service. So we heard about so much about the benefits of hearing, glories of hearing, how it will help now while we are here in the material world, and also it will help at the end of the life to go back to spiritual world, right? So one of the important things we need to remember when hearing is not that, oh, now I know this, now I know that, now I know that, oh, I know a lot of things. That's not the purpose of hearing. The purpose of hearing is to not only know about the God, but to develop our affection for the Lord, develop our love for the God. How does that happen? When we hear carefully and absorb it in our heart, and then we see how world is running according to scripture. Whatever scripture is describing is happening in the world, number 2. And then we apply the same thing in our practical life. We live that by what we understand from the scripture. That's how we can develop love towards the God. And this is easily enabled when we hear from great souls like pure devotees. That's why we need to make some time to hear at least short time every day. Okay? Exalted devotees like that, like Srila Prabhupada or his disciples, for example. So make time to hear, and not only just hear, I know this, I know this, I know this, but to develop our affection. Wow, Supreme Lord killed such a big demon, and Supreme Lord protected even elephant also. Like that, that need to touch our heart. Then we can do a devotion service with lot of inspiration, and we can experience taste in devotion service. We can experience happiness in devotion service. Yeah, we'll pause here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Let's offer obeisance to all the devotees. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kupasindubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you so much, devotees. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much,
Hare
Prabhu.
Om, Hare Krishna.